Hi, I'm Cray. Welcome to our HEC RAS Hollywood special. We've got the Golden Globes coming up this weekend and the Oscars a few weeks after that, so I thought we'd bust out some popcorn and go on a little Hollywood movie history tour. Now, we started part one up in the Bay Area, where we ran into the mother of all waves, which you can see in the movie San Andreas here. Then we went to the East Coast to flood some famous movie sets in New York City for parts 2 and 3. And then in parts 4 and 5, we flew back west and landed at LAX to have a look at the damage there. So now we'll make our way around the rest of LA. Along the way, we'll highlight some of the new capabilities in HEC RAS 6.0, along with some old techniques too, and then we'll apply them to some familiar movie sets. There are thousands of movies we could have picked from on our tour, so I'm going to just try grabbing a few film locations that are next to drainage features that might be of interest to the other HEC RASers out there. Plus, I'll try to throw in a little movie trivia at each stop. I'm revamping all of our training course workshop materials in preparation for the full release of version 6.0, and the terrain data that I'm using here will be the one that we'll be giving to all of our future course attendees. So everyone can have a little preview here while I practice a bit and work through some of the workshop models that might end up in our manual. Your feedback can help pick the winners, so let us know what you think, and if you have any suggestions for other places you'd like to see us flood in future videos, just post your ideas in the comments below. If you want to try any of this for yourself in the meantime, please check out parts 4 and 5 of this series, where I will give you the links to the data sources, where you can download the HEC RAS software and the terrain data that you see here for a very reasonable fee, which is, of course, absolutely free. So let's start with the trailer for the Season 3 premiere of Fox's 911, which shows a much smaller tsunami hitting the Santa Monica Pier than the one that hit the Golden Gate in San Andreas. Now you can see the famous gate here at the entrance to the pier. Let's turn around and have a look at it from the other side, looking back toward LA along Santa Monica Boulevard. You can see it right there. The pier's website says that over 1,000 movies and TV shows have been filmed here, including at least 10 movies where it gets obliterated, like when the Ferris wheel rolls right off the pier in the movie 1941. Now, another claim to fame is that Rocky and Apollo started their beach bromance run right about here. So the pier is a little bit symbolic for America's end of the road at the western sunset. Literally, there's a sign right here that marks the end of historic Route 66. I think the most iconic end of the road scene of them all, though, is this one where Forrest Gump gets to the other end of the pier after running across the country and then decides he might as well turn around and head back the other way. Now, the tsunami scenes that you see here in 911 in the background were actually filmed further south along the coast in the same massive tank as Titanic, Master and Commander, and a ton of other movies. This would put the wave flume in any hydraulics lab I've ever seen to shame. It does look like a hydraulic modeler's dream lab. Like I mentioned before, though, the tsunami in this show that you see here in the background is a bit smaller than some of the mega tsunamis that you might see in some of the Hollywood disaster movies. Here are a few clips you might recognize. We did an airport tsunami like that one in part 5. But if our models are supposed to reflect reality, how realistic is this? For you geotechs, they say a strike-slip fault like the San Andreas would never be able to generate a giant tsunami like these ones, or the ones in the movie San Andreas. You'd need an offshore thrust fault for that one, which is what I'm assuming caused the one in the 911 series that you see behind me here. Let's take a look at the aftermath of that one here, and we'll see if we can put this one into HEC RAS. So from the images, it looks like the wave crest is about 15 to 20 meters high when it first hits the pier, and then it stays up for a while after the initial wave hits. So let's dive into HEC RAS, and we'll set a stage hydrograph downstream boundary condition with a maximum height of, say, 16 meters. So for this one, I've just put a downstream boundary condition line using this button right here along the edge of the coast there out offshore, and then on the unsteady flow data editor, I'll click on that boundary condition and give it a stage hydrograph. Now in that stage hydrograph, I can shorten this up a bit, and we just started this, say, at elevation of 1, bring it up to 16, then down to 12, and then we'll gradually get it back down to 1 again. If I interpolate those values and plot out the data, you can see you've got the spike, and then we'll gradually bring it back down. So let's see what this looks like when I run it in RAS Mapper. So here it is on the way in. You can see some pretty interesting patterns here. Again, this assumes that the terrain, because I grabbed all data on the terrain and not the filtered ground data, that everything is blocked like solid fill. But look inside the roller coaster here, you can see some of the swirls. So anyway, I thought that looked kind of cool. But let's watch this tsunami as it comes in and see how far it goes up into the town. So I'll back it up here and we can watch it come and go. First it comes up, covers the roller coaster, almost the Ferris wheel, and then comes back out again. So now let's have a look at this one in 3D. So turning on particle tracing here and then using the 3D viewer button here, you can see what this looks like. So we'll go right through the Ferris wheel and look at how it came out in the terrain. Went right through that, turn around at the end of the pier, and again this assumes everything is solid. Let's watch the flood come and go. You get almost everything submerged at the coast. I'm surprised it didn't go further inland. If you have a look there, you can actually see that sign came up in the terrain too, that arch there. But let's have a look at this one, and as we let the flood come up, see if we can match this figure that we had up here with the image and see what we've got. So I don't know, I guess we've come fairly close to matching this, but yeah, is this reality? And this is just the TV version. You know, what if we went full Hollywood Deep Impact or End of the World Armageddon like in 2012? So let's zoom out further and see what that looks like when we're looking at pretty much all of LA here. So here it is as it comes up and then floods the valley and then back down again. So sure, we can do tsunamis, but granted there are some major limitations, like the fact that the arrival of a single wave happens much too quickly for HEC RAS to be able to process. It will probably throw you a bunch of instabilities that you'd have to iron out. Remember, HEC RAS likes gradual changes, and it generally won't be able to cope with a big wave that passes through the boundary condition in like 5 to 10 seconds. Plus, there are the limitations of using 2D depth averaging, which can't capture the circular movement inside a wave, or a breaking wave where you can only have one elevation at each XY coordinate. My standard toy, I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is the toy I use to describe results and input files. I can take this and make some waves in there, but try to imagine a breaking wave. I cannot simulate a breaking wave because I only get one water surface elevation for each XY coordinate. So HEC RAS is better suited for drawn-out tidal cycles as the downstream boundary condition for river systems than it is for tidal waves, if we're even allowed to call them that or use that term. So for a real tsunami, you'd probably be better off with a 3D model, but we can make some decent approximations. Now, Season 4 of 911 premiered last month, and it started with the Hollywood Dam breach. And yes, we can do that too, and HEC RAS is actually better suited for that. So let's head to the dam, and we'll start down here at Santa Monica Boulevard. So I'll just pull Google Earth back up here, and let's just go over to Santa Monica Boulevard. It might get that Sheryl Crow song stuck in your head. You might think the Santa Monica Pier ends at the end of Santa Monica Boulevard, but it's actually a couple of blocks away. So let's fly from here over to the Hollywood Dam and have a look at what this dam breach scenario might, some of the damage that that dam breach scenario might have caused. So here we are, the Hollywood Dam and Reservoir. So here's the dam, and you can see the Hollywood sign right up here as well. If you listen to the trailer for the 911 series, you'll hear someone say, where's all that water going to go when the dam breaks? Well, funny you should ask, because there are a whole bunch of HEC RASlers out there who can help you to answer that question. And I'll show you where it goes. So I'll pull up RAS Mapper here, and let's animate this as it comes down. You can see the reservoir there. I've used the same volume of water that that reservoir could store, and as it makes its way downstream, let's go back and have a look at the max. So this is the maximum inundation footprint. Now let's zoom in and see a little bit more about what's going on here. Again, don't trust these results for a real study. This is all hypothetical. I wanted to just point out one feature or consideration at each stop here, and the one I wanted to mention in this case is the impact of terrain on how the flow path behaves. I mentioned in the last video how I grabbed a few different types of terrain data and then stitched them together to demonstrate the difference. One thing I wanted to point out here is that when you put in buildings as terrain versus the bare earth's surface, watch out, watch your roughness values. If the buildings are not in your terrain, you can bump it up, but even if the buildings are in the terrain, you may need to use, you need to use a different roughness if you have big grid sizes that don't have complete cell edges inside a building. In that case, the roughness should be increased to account for that. In this case, I'll turn on my terrain layer only here and then turn on my 2D flow area. And you can see that any building that doesn't line up with this, the flow is going to be able to go right through it. Now, volume-wise, it will be displaced, but this building here is not going to block any flow. So don't double count your roughness. If you've increased your roughness to accommodate these buildings, then if you used smaller cell sizes that accounted for this building, then you'd have the energy lost with directional changes. So I guess that's one of the main points I wanted to make here, is that it might not be appropriate to use the same roughness values for a coarse grid as you would for a fine grid. And I'll put some links to some webinars that are dedicated entirely to roughness in the description below. Now let's go back to Google Earth here. Let's zoom in on the Hollywood sign. In the TV show, the reservoir or the dam breach actually causes a drawdown that causes the landslide that ends up taking out the Hollywood sign. Now for a little fun fact, did you know that each of these letters was donated by a different celebrity when the original wooden letters got infested by termites? This first O right here, for example, was named for Alice Cooper, seen here as the Sun King in the Sgt. Pepper movie and being worshipped by the unworthy Wayne and Garth. Turns out that Hugh Hefner donated his personal helicopter to put these signs up, which might make the recent vandalism of that sign much more appropriate, or less appropriate, I guess. But if we're trying to model the real world, would that be possible? Could a reservoir drawdown take out the Hollywood sign? What do you think? Reservoir-induced landslides are definitely a thing. Sometimes the drawdown from a dam breach can cause a landslide, like they've shown here. But in other cases, actually filling the reservoir up behind the dam causes a landslide, which can also cause a dam break or can generate a wave that the dam fails to contain, as we saw with the Vajont Dam in Italy, which was one of the worst man-made disasters in history. So let's go back over here to the Chinese theater. And imagine you're watching a movie premiere there, or maybe you're watching a concert from the Hollywood Bowl. If you heard that the dam was breaching, let's have a look here at RAS Mapper and see how you might fare. Now I'm blocking the view of it here, but there you see the Chinese theater, and the detail in Google Earth is amazing. But here you have there's the Chinese theater right there. And as we watch this flood wave come and go, looks like we'd just barely be okay if my parameters are correct. And they're not. This bridge isn't built in correctly. And there are a few other deficiencies in this one right now. So it looks like you'd be safe from this dam breach. But what if you heard that big tsunami was coming from the west? So let's do a quick pop quiz here. Assuming that the traffic is gridlocked before the sirens even go off, this is LA after all, where are you going to run? Do you go north up to the Hollywood sign, or do you go east to the Griffith Observatory? They are both on high ground. They're both about 3 kilometers away, so you might have just enough time to make it before the flood wave hits. So which one is going to get you higher and safer? We'll answer that question a little later on the tour again, but let's get back to the Chinese theater here, to our red carpet premiere. you can actually see, if you look down here, the individual stars on the Walk of Fame. And so if I go back into RAS Mapper and we turn on the Google Hybrid, we can actually see them there as well. So let's zoom in on it. And I think if you have Google Hybrid on, it'll actually tell you the names of some of the celebrities that you might see there. There's Bruce Lee's, there's Michael Jackson's, we've got Superman and the time traveler Michael J. Fox. So let's zoom in a little farther and see, maybe we can actually pick up these stars themselves. Look at that. What do you know? So that's a little reminder to me that I might get a bit distracted and forget that this is a HEC RAS video. So at each stop, I do want to be sure and share some HEC RAS tips. For this one, I've got a separate tutorial video for making a world file and embedding a georeferenced image like this into RAS Mapper that I'll paste into the description. So let me switch backgrounds here and let's have a look at the Walk of Fame in the rain. I ran across this image of someone making the forms for one of the stars in the rain. In this case, the star belongs to Mary J. Blige. But I wondered what might happen if the sheet flow that you see from the rainfall runoff actually ran into the star shape. You may have noticed the results at the beginning of this video, but I'll step through this process here to show how it was done. I'll use our georeferenced image as a background here. You've probably never wanted to do anything this small because this is only a meter across from one side to the other. But georeferencing an image into RAS Mapper can definitely be useful for larger scale applications. If you had a drone, for instance, that went up in the air and shot an image, but didn't have any coordinate data associated with it, you can still add a georeferencing to it with a world file and overlay it onto your project. So as a first pass at your world file, you may want to export the Google imagery or your web imagery here as a static image in RAS Mapper. So I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So first let's zoom back out to the Walk of Fame, where let me turn on Google Satellite and turn off the terrain so you can see where we're at and see that these are real world coordinates. You can see the tour buses here, each of the little stars on the Walk of Fame here. You can see the labels even. I think I pointed a few of these out before, but I don't know why Nicole Kidman's star says temporarily closed. Wasn't sure you could close these stars, but I'll show you where the star is that we've georeferenced here. You can see it right about there with my mouse. I'll zoom in on a bit. And again, to show you what we would do if we were trying to make a world file, if I had this one off and this shape right here was the star that I wanted, I would line up this image with the upper left pixel. Let me get myself out of the way here, with the upper left pixel being up here in this upper left corner of the view frame. So you can see right here, if I wanted the tile kind of around the outside of this, I would put it right there. And you could zoom in a little farther, whatever you want for your scale. But what you'll do is go to the web imagery, and wherever you're at with this coordinate right here, when I right click on this and say export layer and export it to a JPEG, you're going to then, if I put it into the aerial directory and I call this one RAS star, you'll now get a georeferenced image that you can then use the world file for. So if I double click here on the world file, you'll see that this is 1 millimeter pixels, which should match what you've got down here, and your upper left coordinates for the pixel up here will be listed. Now you can scale this, and there's some formulas you can use to do so. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on it because I've got tutorial links for this process that I'll include in the description below. So we won't get into too much detail here, but what you do to this scale is basically take the length of the distance that's covered by your image and divide that by the number of pixels in your image. So if you want to do that yourself, have a look at the links in the description below. But let's go in and use this as a template now so that we can see what happens when it rains and when the rainfall runoff hits this star shape. So I'll step you through the process that I went through to make that image that you saw at the beginning of the video. And it's a as basic a model as you can possibly get, but I'll start with outlining this star. Now, anytime I do anything where I use shapes multiple times, like in this case I'll use it for a break line and I'll use it for the terrain, I like to have it in as a shape file that I can recover later on in case I inadvertently change it. So I'm going to start this new polygon layer, and I'll call this again RAS star. And when I make this star around the outside, I'm just going to trace this image, and this will become the formwork that will obstruct the flow. And I'm not making this exact right now, but you could bring in any shapefile that you've already got if you had this already saved. So I'll stop editing this and save the edits, and now I've got this shape saved as a feature. So the next step that I used in, again, just running some flow along the sidewalk here was to kind of smooth the sidewalk out. So I'll go into my terrains and I'll take one of these ones, this one here called La La Land, and I will clone this one. And the suffix I'll use here will be RAS star, just like everything else. And now I've got a layer down here called RAS star. So with this one, I'm just going to add 2 modification layers to it, one of which will be just a square around the outside. So this will be the tile that covers it. I could do this as a square or as a just this multi-point polygon if I try to be fairly straight with this thing. I could be more exact by making it a square. Instead of using the boundary around the outside, I'll just go ahead and assign it the elevation that it's already got there, which in this case is 0. Maybe I should have raised it up some. I think around the outside here we're at about an elevation of 120, maybe 122. Let's go ahead and add another modification, and we'll call this one the star itself. So this will be the star shape, and outline. We'll just make that the outline. So this, I can already start by drawing a shape around here, but what if that shape isn't necessarily what I want? I can take this one and call it RAS star outline and replace the terrain data value instead of using the boundary at the terrain. I'll make this 122. I'll go ahead and say OK. Now it's in there as a shape right now, but let's go into the attributes table and add what we've got here already from our shape file, which automatically goes under the features directory. We'll take this one and the one that we just made here called RAS star, and this will go in as a new shape. So I can take any of these other shapes here that I've added and delete them. So like right here, I'll take the one that I've already drawn here and get rid of that and delete the selected feature, and now I've got this one here that's at an elevation of 122. So if I highlight this and let's turn off my map layers, you can then, I'll turn off the original one as well, and you can see what I've got here, which is an elevation out here which matches the existing ground, an elevation here which is 0, and an elevation there which is 122. So I basically got this raised star in the middle, and I'll bring some flow in from the top and let it out the bottom. To do that, I'll just go ahead and make a new geometry here, and again the new geometry, I'll add this and call this RAS star, and we'll go into that geometry now and draw ourselves a perimeter under the 2D flow areas. Start editing this, and I'll just draw a square inside of here. And so this will be the extents of our geometry. I'll call this one RAS star, and we'll make this one again. I was at 1 millimeter for my resolution in the image. I'll make these 1 centimeter, compute those with break lines, and you can see my 1 centimeter pixels here. Now, having this as a shape file already, if I had a really complex shape and I didn't want to retrace it, we can use the same thing here then as a break line. So I'll right click on the break lines, go to the layer properties, under the features, I'll import the features, go back to that break line that I just drew, or to the RAS star shape that I've just drawn, and here it comes. Now for the near spacing, let's just keep it the same, 1 centimeter. Near repeats, let's give it a couple of near repeats. For the far spacing, since I'm using the same spacing and just trying to realign these cells along these edges, I'll just leave that as it is. So if I go in here now and enforce the break line, you'll see then that it lines up with the star, and I could just make this a refinement region, and inside of it make it bigger pixels because I'm not actually running any flow through this, but you can see how it's a fairly symmetrical shape, and now I'm going to be able to have some flow run along the sides of it. So in the geometry editor, I'll show you, this is just very simple. From left to right looking downstream, I just drew an inflow boundary condition, and again from left to right looking downstream, an outflow boundary condition. And for my unsteady flow, I've got an inflow hydrograph at a constant rate and a normal depth hydrograph on the way out. So let's run this and have a look at what this looks like in RAS Mapper. So let me move myself out of the way, and we'll turn on RAS Mapper. And you can see I've changed the colors around a little bit on the background. But let's just turn on the velocity output, and we'll watch this come down. And when it first hits the points of the star, I'll turn on the particle tracing there. You can see, imagine a kind of star-shaped jetty or a point here, and what would happen to the flow as it goes around there. Let's watch as it hits the next one. Again, turn that on. And now let's come around the bottom of it, and you can see how it one side hits the other, and I'll go a little farther here, and you can see this again. I just thought these patterns were pretty interesting for a star. As we come to one last one here, with when it gets all blue and slows way down, you can see in the scale down below that the blue velocities are the slow ones. But if you turn this on, it's a bit mesmerizing. I don't know how useful this is, how practical this is for this scale, but again, we could do this to any image that you have. We could do this to a logo if you had one, and you know, anything that you want to be able to trace in, we can look at how flow will route around different shapes. Okay, so that wraps up episode 1 of our trilogy. Let me get Google Earth back up on the screen here, and let's just have a look at where we've been. So we came down and flew into LAX, went up to the Santa Monica Pier, came over to Hollywood, watched the reservoir fail there while the tsunami came up from the coast, and then what we'll do now going forward, I'm going to take a bit of a break here and then dive into episode 2, which will be starting with the silent era of film, and we'll go to each of these stops along the way, hit some of the classics. You can see Casablanca here, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, get into the 70s, and I'll probably split it again at that point because there are quite a few stops here. And then episode 3 will be some of the 80s scenes that you see here. We'll hit some of these stops, and each time, again, I'm putting these models together for our workshop tutorial manual that will go in for our courses. So if you've got comments along the way, we'd certainly appreciate it. So thanks for joining me today. I do hope you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe, pass along any questions or suggestions in the comments below, and we will see you next time.